Hi Dreamer, welcome back to another travel video. I'm Brittany and today we're talking about something I never thought that we would talk about, Frontier Airlines. I flew them the other day after probably at least a 5-6 year hiatus from them. I really swore that I'd never fly them again. If I'm flying a budget airline, it's usually Spirit, but I flew them the other day and I thought that we really need to sit down and kind of talk about the experience. So let's dive right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is why I was flying Frontier to begin with. And that is due to all of the new changes that have been going on with Southwest Airlines. I am one of the many loyal, or has been loyal up until this point, customers of theirs that have decided to vote with my dollar elsewhere. So I was flying to a last minute flight to Las Vegas from St. Louis Airport. And that last minute fare on Southwest for a nonstop was $940-ish, where I flew Frontier, 2 people with a lot of upgrades that we will talk about in a minute, was just under $800. So roughly like $400 per person. So half, kind of insane. So the price really made me want to give them a fair shot. I mean, that's quite the fare difference. I also had heard that Frontier had been making a lot of changes to keep up with Spirit Airlines, and I've been really happy with the changes I've been seeing over in Spirit. I talk about many of those in a video that I just recently did. I'll link it up here in the cards for you if you are interested in Spirit Airlines as well. Whenever I booked this fare with Frontier, the economy bundle was right around $100, and all of the other bundle seats and add-ons was like $150-ish more, which is kind of insane whenever you think about it, that like the seats are so little compared to all of those extra nickel and dime add-ons. And I think that that's why a lot of people hate Frontier, is that you just feel like they are just gouging you every step of the way. And I definitely felt like that going through the online process. I definitely didn't think that it was quite as smooth to go through the different options as it was for Spirit. However, a lot of those bundles and upgrades are very similar. You can tell that they are directly looking at each other as direct comparison competitors, and they're stealing some ideas. There's definitely some like give and take there where you're wondering kind of who came first with all of these ideas. One of the things that I want to point out on Frontier is many of the time whenever you're looking at their fares, they seem a lot cheaper than other airlines because they don't show their fees in their upfront pricing. Many of the other airlines do show those fees, so whenever you get to your end cart, you're not really surprised by the price that you're paying. But in Frontier, the price that you're seeing is pretty well never the price that you're going to end up paying. I do think in the end you are getting a more affordable product though. I did 2 experiences on Frontier, so I did a round trip flight. Going to Vegas, I chose just the really basic economy bundle, and with that I paid for a seat upgrade in the exit row. Exit row is always a great choice for adults because you're getting the extra legroom and you know that you're not going to be sitting at least right beside children. Not that that really helps, like a screaming child you're going to hear from like many rows back, but at least you know that you're not going to be sitting right next to a child in the exit row. So me and my partner did 2 aisle seats. This is always great if one of us or both of us are working on a flight. I definitely consider that a little bit of a flight hack for you if you're flying with a partner. I always have to get up and pee mid-flight. It's just, I don't know, it's like flight nerves or something, but I always have to get up and use the restroom, and I don't like to bother the person next to me, so I like to sit on the aisle and then also my partner works on the plane more often than not, and so he likes to sit in the aisle, so he's at least has like one arm loose to work. That exit row seat I thought was pretty good. Frontier Airlines are notoriously narrow seats, and they're also very, very hard. The nicer seats, I say that really loosely, have a quilted pad on them compared to the standard padding that's on the regular seats. I haven't measured it. I'll put it on screen if I can find if there's actually any difference in the real padding. I don't think so. Having sat on a regular seat and a quilted seat just back to back, just trying to compare on the airplane, they felt about the same to me. So I don't actually think you're getting a particularly better seat. It might look a little prettier, but that's not really a comfort to you whenever you're sitting like 3 hours on an airplane. Overall, I was pretty comfortable in that seat for 3 hours going to Vegas. That is about the limit though that I would want to fly on that kind of seat. I was kind of hurting by the end. I was feeling pretty stiff. I did have plenty of legroom though, so you are getting plenty of legroom in those exit rows with extended legroom. So no real complaints on the legroom or anything like that. You are getting the tiniest work tray to work, so not the best use of like space and work there. Most of the time I'll just work on my lap. So if that's something that you kind of struggle with, you want a good workspace, Frontier is something you're going to struggle with because none of the seats have particularly great work or eating trays. Now, coming back to St. Louis, I was really excited to book this particular option and see how it compared to Spirit. They are adding big front seats to Frontier Airlines. But before they get around to that, they're actually adding Spirit's new option, which is being able to book a aisle seat and a window seat with no person in between. So you're missing the middle seat there. I got to experience this on Spirit a while ago and I really liked it. So I was really excited to test it out on Frontier. Frontier doesn't add a tray to that middle seat. They just put a little sign in there that says like no sitting. I will definitely be trying Frontier's big front seats once they add them and see how they compare to Spirit's big front seats. But I was okay with that experience. I think whenever I am comparing the seat in the middle to a exit row seat, you are getting extra legroom on that missing middle seat flight also. But I think given like a direct comparison, I think it would save the money and just book an exit row. Unless you're in a really big hurry and you want off the plane first, because those missing middle seat row seats are in the front of the plane. So you will get off the airplane pretty quickly. But that brings me to several big cons in Frontier's upgrades compared to their competitor, Spirit. First, you're not getting a snack. You're not getting any free drink or snack on Frontier. Nothing is included. That doesn't really make any difference for me. I don't really eat whenever I'm flying unless there's like a new snack in the air that they have that I want to try. But one of the things that did really irritate me is Frontier does not save you the front two overhead bins in the cabin. So usually on pretty well any airline that you fly, the front two bins are reserved, so there's plenty of space for all of the luggage. I mean, the front two rows of the plane on either side, all of the overhead luggage needs to go in the overhead bins, and because of that, there's usually a little bit of a surplus of bags. And so most airlines will reserve those front two bins for the front seats luggage. Frontier didn't do that. And so even though we were one of the first people on the plane, there was still luggage in those front overhead bins. And midway through the flight, I learned that they were full, or at least one of the bins was full of one of the flight attendants' stuff. She got in and got a whole bunch of like stuff out of her bag. I've never seen this happen. I guess they don't have a policy against it, but I thought it was really, really interesting. And please, if somebody has like a little bit more insight on this, I would love to hear it down in the comments. But I've never really seen it. Any flight that I've ever taken, the flight attendants are getting their luggage from like a different location. They're definitely not taking up the very valuable first 2 bins of the airplane. So I kind of just want to know if that's a Frontier policy or if that's just a poorly trained flight attendant. Not really sure. On both flights, I would say that the flight attendants on Frontier are generally less trained, less enthusiastic than pretty well any other airline. It's almost like they know the general public doesn't really want to be flying their airline, and they don't really want to be there either. Even on Spirit, a lot of times you'll find some like really good-natured, just happy employees. I've had some really, really amazing encounters with some Spirit flight attendants in the past. Both of my flights to and from like Vegas, flight attendant wise, were not stellar by any means. The flight attendants really didn't seem like they wanted to be there. That's not going to make me choose an airline versus not choose an airline, but if you're factoring it into all of the pros and cons, it definitely falls into the cons list. So that's enough cons for now. Let's go into one of the pros of Frontier that you might not think about when booking it versus Spirit, and that pro is the fact that you can actually get a hold of them on the phone. Now, you're probably going to have a long wait and it's not going to be the best service, but you would be surprised how hard it is to get their competitor, Spirit Airlines, on the telephone. You can text them, you can text message them. Usually the wait is an hour to an hour and a half, I found, at non-peak times. Wow. However, Frontier Airlines does have a number that you can call, and I think that that's really a nice perk. If I have a serious problem with a flight that I'm taking, it's nice to be able to actually talk to somebody on the phone without just messaging back and forth instant message wise. One of the things that doesn't really affect me, because I am either working offline or reading a book, or I've already downloaded a lot of the shows that I'm going to watch during that flight, but there are no Wi-Fi on Frontier. They don't provide it. It's not something that you can add in as like an extra cost. They simply just don't have it. If you are somebody flying for business, this might just completely rule out Frontier Airlines. There's some times of the year that I absolutely need to be available and somebody might need to contact me 24 hours a day. So being on an airplane for several hours at a time during the day is just not possible if I can't be like reached. So that might rule out Frontier in some regards for some important trips, but it probably doesn't rule them out for like everyone. Most people can get by a few hours without Wi-Fi. I do wonder if the cost savings on Frontier, at least some of the cost savings, is due to the fact that their airplanes don't have Wi-Fi. I'm sure that's a huge cost to the general aviation companies. Now, would I fly Frontier Airlines again? Yes. I actually already mentioned that I plan to try their big front seats whenever they come out later in the year. Subscribe if you are interested in watching me review those. I won't make it in my like normal rotation. It's not something that I would particularly look forward to, but if I am going somewhere on a budget and I kind of just need to get there and it's under 3.5 hours, I would definitely consider Frontier Airlines in the mix. I think I still prefer pretty well all other airlines over them, but I'm excited to see what added perks they continue to roll out. They definitely have been making some major changes recently. One of those changes to note is that their extra high status, which is near impossible to get to, it's barely possible if you have their credit card, but otherwise you would have to be flying a whole lot to get to that top tier status. But they are offering companion passes so your partner can fly free with you on any flight if you hit that upper status tier. Those are Elite Premium and Diamond. Once again, really, really high status levels, but it's nice that that's an added perk, just like Southwest Airlines and a few other airlines offer. It's really, really nice. I had it for a few years on Southwest, and it is a huge money saver. The only other thing that I want to mention is their Go Wild service. They are offering this very crazy deal and have been for maybe over a year now. I'd almost call it a flight subscription where you can pay a few $100s and get all of the flights that you want for that price. I really want to call out attention to this and how it is absolutely a scam, and I don't believe almost anyone should do it. Honestly, I wanted to do it for the amusement of it for this channel. If anyone wants to like send over a couple $100s, I'll absolutely, you know, do a month in the air and see how many flights I can get, but it's just not quite in the budget for this channel as of right now. I want to dive into the Go Wild subscription flight. So you pay either monthly, 3 months, 6 months, and it breaks down to like roughly 100 to 150 per month, depending on what size package that you get. And you get all of the flights that you can book during that time period for free. I say free in quotes because it does not include their exorbitant fees on Frontier Airlines per flight. And that might be enough to make the subscription not really worth it. But the number one reason why it's not absolutely not worth it is that if you read the fine print, those flights are not confirmed until 24 hours before you're supposed to leave. So you have to be very, very flexible to be able to take these flights, and there has to be room on those flights. You're going to get bumped from that flight if there's a different actual paying customer that wants to take that seat. That price also does not include you picking a seat, and it doesn't include luggage. So you're flying around the country as much as you can in a backpack. Not even like a carry-on, you're just getting a personal item. So at most you're probably going to be able to be gone for only a couple days max, unless you're buying clothes on the road. I would absolutely love to hear if anyone watching this has tried the Go Wild flight subscription. As a travel enthusiast, I'm always really curious about it, and it definitely really sounds interesting if you have the flexibility to try it out. I'd love to hear what you guys think of Frontier Airlines. Do you regularly fly them? Do you think it's worth the cost savings? I'd love to hear. Thanks for being here. Please consider subscribing. I'll be back shortly with another travel video. Bye, dreamer.